fix that only serves Collegedale residents.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to spend money on this road to fix it. I just need you to give me a window.
And you're not getting any taxes off it.
Right. Like, I get why they don't want to, but
Yeah.
And she's very respectful. She does. She let two go last year.
Is she? Rebecca Logan.
Are we getting there?
getting there, Andrew?
I went live with it. I've got a blank screen. I texted Jason to see if he sees anything. I'm trying to pull up my phone as well.
Show.
Everybody's graceful as a
We really need to get somebody in here to,
golden sunshine.
I mean, we've had problems going on
Yeah,
good 8 or 9 months.
We've tried several different vendors to figure out.
Jason says we're paying.
Okay, okay. So as soon as he gets back, we'll get started again.
I think what they did is they know that I'm always threatening to kick him in order to protect him. They put you in between us.
Oh,
Because I got
so-
this boot on, I've hit him hard.
So my your protection is deadly too.
Well, she couldn't catch me now with that boot on.
I can throw it. It just took me about an hour to get it off.
No.
Yeah, now.
It's happened. And they're behind.
I'm waiting to see if they can hear.
Okay. Jason said that he was able to hear voices.
Is that a good thing?
Gonna have to catch up.
This person said it's not working at all for me now. I'm going to try to restart YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, they'll have to come into the next pop-up probably.
I think we're good to go then.
All right. So starting back at the capital projects, that includes 25,000 for Christmas lights at City Hall, 25,000 for Christmas pole LEDs, 70,000 to refresh the terminal, 250,000 for the Greenway design, 350,000 to rebuild the wooden portions of Imagination Station, 500,000 to renovate the library. We expect about 80,000 of that will be designed. The remainder will be best utilizing that space. And we're going to have LS&S as a rep that is what they do. And we're going to have them meet with Andrew and our architect. And Andrew's going to go through LED light upgrades and specific things that need to be done that we pulled out of his budget as part of that remodel. And then have the LS&S rep work with Alex directly to make sure that we fully utilize it, but be very clear there is a maximum amount of money to stop there and do that renovation.
And we're going to downsize the circulation desk.
I expect almost all of that comes out. I'm going to request LS&S makes a recommendation, but yes, I expect almost all of that circulation desk comes out and we reimagine how that space is used.
And as far as the desk where people sit today, I would like for them to look at that as well.
Yes.
And I don't know if a desktop is the right thing to have these, I mean, today in today's society, or
Right.
could we get away with Chromebooks or?
Those are questions we need to ask and try to gain some space. And then the last item is the parking lot across the street that's currently out for bid. And so we are getting a fair amount of interest on that. Do you know what the bid opening date is, Eric? It's about a week and a half from now.
Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And this is over by Little Debbie Parkway that we're responsible for.
Correct. It's where the bridge from the park goes to that property that was donated with the exclusive usage that it was a city-built parking lot to help serve the commons in the Little Debbie Park. So Looking at that, that gives a total admin budget of 3.77 million. If you will look though, the bulk of that is 2.72 in capital projects and 130 in transfer to the airport fund. The actual admin budget is roughly $48,000 increase on 800. So it's not as bad as that 300% load.
So I'm gonna stop and ask a question about salaries.
Mhm.
So I know we always struggle on salaries year over year. I know this year we're trying to bring the police department up too with all the other departments.
Yeah, Police and Public Works was.
And the county's gonna just announce that probably next year they're gonna have a $5,000 increase. I mean, we're never gonna catch the county in that aspect of it. But for the people who are, say you have a person come in first year, and not police, but any department, first year and 8-year employee, we pay them the exact same salary.
The exact same salary. Their retention incentive in the fall is the differentiator. So rather than a stepped plan where that money is paid out each pay period, they get a check one time of year. When we looked at the step, it got more expensive than our retention incentive is currently, using some of our peers as comparisons. So that was the big push last year in updating the retention incentive as part of the employee manual update, was to be a little more reflective of what years of service did. There's police or public works would be good examples. 10 years of service was $1,000 difference in pay. And so that was updated last year. And these numbers reflect the changes in that retention incentive.
Can everybody hear that okay out there in the audience? I just kind of, if somebody's working hard at a entry level, but the person who's been here 8 years is just scooting along, waiting for whatever, I'm a pay for performance type person. I think we should pay them for their work that they do for us. As well as in reflecting their incentive pay.
Mhm.
Would we even consider that in the future?
So with an organization our size, a performance-based raise is complicated. It's not impossible. East Ridge is looking at it right now on how to do it. The biggest thing is doing it in a way that's fair, and how big that is. I want to say East Ridge has a 0 to 3% kicker, or they're looking at a 0 to 3% kicker for performance. So if you have someone that's doing incredibly well, they might get on top of their COLA an extra 2 or 3%. I was wanting to see how that works, see where the numbers fall. We could certainly look into that as next year's budget. It's certainly not budgeted now, and I think would be a pretty big jump.
I think it's kind of, in my view, I haven't talked to anybody about this, but in my view, it would be a disincentive or a dissatisfaction for me to know I'm working my butt off out there. And I'll just say like Public Works,
Mhm.
out there landscaping, mowing or whatever. And the guy who's been here 8 years is just kind of standing at the truck or whatever.
Yeah, that's a constant concern across all departments.
That's
You
why-
always, the highest performer making the same as the person who's slogging it out.
And I wasn't just picking out Public Works, I mean, across the board, yeah.
Right. And how you address it is complicated. And we can certainly look at it next year. You do get into some situations where you might have a very motivated person at a laborer one, because we'll just use Public Works as an example. It's hired in fresh, 21 years old, laborer one, super motivated. And they get those 2 and 3% bumps every year, but they haven't done some of the other things to move to a laborer two. And then they end up making as much or more than a laborer two, and maybe life changes and they're less motivated at 29 because they're more focused on family or those sorts of things. So how we address all that other than through management of, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, you need to pick it up and work harder and talk less.
I've always believed if you tell me I'm doing a good job, my pay should reflect it.
Mhm.
Just the type of business that,
Mhm.
we pay.
Yeah, that was the same kind of like, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Um, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Basically, my salary's based like that. Because as you're longer with somebody, you have some of those people that you've worked hard to get up there. You paid your dues, you know, but the kids, you still have to keep performing. So that's why we have evaluations. I have to do, I only have to have 2 a year. But it has to meet certain standards or certain guidelines in order to keep that, and that, then my salary's based, okay, I'm going to get up boost. Cost of living's across the board, no matter, it's just across the board. But if there's an incentive for more, I have to prove it in my performance level. And they have a base that you can just go to. It's not a lot, but it's just a little incentive. So it's not unusual. For example, when I was at Brainerd, the incentive was I got an extra $25,000 because my performance and my standard of my kids came up. But when they're on the low, they have nowhere to go but up, you know, so I kind of reached from that a little bit, but it balances out in the long run. But there's something that you can kind of, I don't know what it would actually be for the police and the public works, but like you have certain goals you have to meet. I don't want to use quotas. A lot of people say quotas. That's not the word I want to use. But what has to do with job performance? What are the indicators that they're doing a good job, that they deserve more? That would need to be laid out black and white.
Absolutely, crystal clear. And how you keep from, I worked for one organization that did have performance-based raises, but there was a maximum amount of money per department.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is people who had been there very long times and were capped out never got a performance-based raise. They just got whatever the COLA was, and that money was redistributed down. And so they had been there 10, 15, 20 years and couldn't earn a performance-based raise because they were already capped out. And so all of those things would have to be thought through to find an approach. I don't disagree with you. I just don't have.
Yeah, I just want to put it on the table for next year because I think that's, you know, we want to keep good employees, and I think that would be a way to look at that. And even on the performance cap, the job evaluations go up, you know, that type of position changes throughout the years, and, you know, they'll get some more money out of it. But it's just, I want to make sure we have satisfied employees. And I don't get out and talk to them, but I think that just by looking at it, I would feel like, and that's why I was really for the $4,000 increase.
Well, I'd be curious as to what conclusions East Ridge reaches and how that could benefit us.
A year of more information would advise this conversation well.
Yep.
So I would like to have that in January.
But even in like school system and everything, there's a certain year that you get like, I'm capped out for my base now, and I have to be for 3 years where they draw my plan up, which is still, I get a raise, but I'm capped out for 3 years except for cost of living raise.
Right.
But the step is what they call, they say they don't call it steps anymore, but it's basically a step.
Right.
You can just change the word, it means the same thing. So that, it would make it difficult. But like, of course, I've been in the business a long time, so I'm making as much as a principal without having, let's say he's got 10 years experience, but I've put the years in. And I'm having to maintain that stability and that quality of education, or I won't have a job anymore.
Right.
And I think that it's hard to do, you know. And some people would look at it like, oh, she's just a teacher. She's making this X amount. I'm a principal and I'm making 30,000 less than her. But years of experience does count.
Right.
You know. Can I ask, can y'all hear me or am I too low? Okay. Too low? Let me pull it up again.
So,
When I get mad, you'll hear me.
so one thing I'd like to ask, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that we all have a vested interest in the way the city looks with the lights and pole decoration. I'd like to see what Eric comes up with, you know, from the design. I know there's a lot of options out there. I don't know if we've ordered anything or if we had an opportunity to look at this point.
I've not ordered anything because it's in next year's budget, but yeah, there's several different companies that email me once a month saying they have new stuff and all kinds of different designs.
I think it'd be nice to look at and, you know, have
Yeah, I agree. I think East Ridge has done a good job with theirs, but I'd like to see what we come up with.
All right. Moving on to planning. Salaries up 9%. This is what we were talking about earlier based on career progression. OSI is writing that. The business